What's going on, Rip City? This is the Believe in Blazers podcast presented by Bet Online on the Believe Podcast Network. I am your host, Stephen Vaughn. I am with my guy, my co-host, Tori Jones. Tori, what's going on, my brother? How you doing?
I'm doing great. I just watched the Lakers collapse. That was fun.
Yeah, that is fun. Charles Barkley just said, the Lakers stink, as always. So it's always good when you hear the Lakers stink. And you know what, Tori? If you want to bet on the Lakers stinking, go to our partners over at Bet Online. Get good odds on them because basketball is back. BetOnline remains your number one source for all your sports betting needs this season. You'll always find the latest odds, team matchup info, player news, and game trends at BetOnline. And as your continued source for all sports wagering information, BetOnline features live betting, free contests, and giveaways all season long. Always the fastest and easiest way to bet all your favorite sports and events, whether that's the NFL, NBA, NHL, MMA, tennis, boxing, even golf, or Argentina to win the World Cup. Head to betonline.ag to join and receive your 50% welcome bonus with your first deposit. Make sure to use promo code BELIEVE, B-L-E-A-V. That is BELIEVE to receive your rewards. Bet Online, where the game starts. Tori, if you want to go bet the Blazers right now, 70-1 to win the NBA championship. Not terrible.
I'd take it. Somehow the Lakers have better odds to win the championship, which makes no sense to me, Steven. I was looking at that recently.
Yeah, 33-1 for the Lakers, 70-1 for the Blazers. Even I, the classic Blazer guy who doesn't think Blazers are very good, have better odds than the Lakers. I would give him that for sure. Tori, I have a couple things I want to talk to you about here. The Blazers are playing well. I'm going to get that out of the way right now because this is going to be my first topic I want to get to is a negative topic. So I just want to get this out of the way. Blazers playing really well. Right now they're, fifth in the Western Conference, just about to kick off that 6-game road trip. But I want to get into maybe my favorite guy on the team, Shaedon Sharpe. He has been struggling as of late. Now, if we all remember, back in the day, this was after the first 11 games, after the Charlotte game, he had a volar avulsion fracture to his right fifth finger. So he hurt his finger. I believe the fifth finger would be your pinky. He hurt that. In those 11 games before he hurt his pinky, 44% from three, 51 overall. The 15 games since that injury was announced by the Blazers, Tori, he's shooting 26% from three, 43% from the field, and he's only had 7 games where he's hit at least 1 3, 8 games where he hasn't even hit a 3 at all. He's really been struggling. I think a lot of it is to do with the finger. So, my question to you is, because the Blazers are definitely not tanking, they are going for the playoffs, it's very obvious. There's no tanking involved with this team whatsoever. How much longer can Chauncey Billups continue to put out a 19-year-old who isn't scoring, isn't shooting the ball well, and as we've talked about, isn't playing great defense out on the court night after night?
I mean, he played him on opening night, and this is closer to my expectations for him than what he showed the first 15 games. And that 15-game sample to start the season kind of raised everybody's expectations through the roof, and now they've come crashing down to earth. But you shouldn't have expected a dude, 19 years old, won't turn 20 until after the season unless the Blazers go on a huge run. We actually shared the same birthday, by the way. You shouldn't have expected him to come in shooting 45% from 3 and 50% from the field. It just didn't make much sense. And he wasn't a guy that people looked at as NBA ready. He was a guy that was looked at as a long-term upside piece that was going to take some time to develop. And Chauncey, despite knowing that, still threw him out there on opening night. Now, it was easy to throw him out there when he was scoring a bunch, shooting the ball really well, but considering the fact that Chauncey threw him out from the get-go, and this is closer to what he should have expected from Shaedon Sharpe, to what we should have expected from Shaedon Sharpe, I don't know if anything changes until at least Gary Payton II is back, because you want him to work through this rookie wall. There's other rookies that are starting to struggle. Benedict Mathurin hasn't played as well lately. He played phenomenal to start the year. Rookies hit the rookie wall. It's a thing. So this shouldn't shock anyone. I don't know if you want to completely take him out of the rotation once he hits the rookie wall. And my question would be, who do you even play over him? Because it's not like there's anybody behind him that really deserves a ton of minutes right now. The only guy you could make a case for is Keon Johnson, but I think you could play Keon and Shaedon Sharpe at this point. So considering Chauncey played him day one and Nasir Little is now hurt and isn't available, opening up more minutes, I don't think anything's going to change. I think you're just going to see Chauncey trying to let Shaden Sharp work through some of his struggles and learn from some of his struggles.
I agree with you. We were talking about this on 750 The Game today. I think it's tough right now because the Blazers, the depth just isn't great. And I know last game against the Timberwolves, the back-to-back against the Timberwolves, he shot the ball well. He actually ended up scoring quite a bit of points, but a lot of it was in the second half, fourth quarter. He ended up shooting, 6 of 8 in the second half, scoring 12 points. He was 1 of 4 in the first half, I believe. So, he struggled when the game was actually a game. That's my concern as well, is like, who are you going to play instead of Shaden Sharp? But at the same time, like, if you're trying to win games, he's not really helping, right? Like, he's not helping defensively or offensively. So at the same time, like, I feel like a move has to be made, but I'm with you. I don't know who the move is. The obvious answer is Keon Johnson, but they don't really play the same spot. Like, Shaden Sharp can play bigger than Keon. It'd be, Jabari Walker. Like, no, he's not quite ready to play. Trenton Watford is more of a big. Justice Winslow had a nice game, but, Shaden Sharp provides something that the Blazers have. I just wanted to talk about that a little bit. Like, do you think there is any chance that Chauncey just says, you know what, Shaden, take a couple nights off, make sure you get 100%, because maybe it is just that finger, right? Like, his finger still could be bothering him. Do you think he just gives a couple nights off, regroup, and then come back later and ready to go? Think that's something Chauncey could do?
Well, honestly, I would bet that it's maybe more so his legs than the finger right now, because we've talked about this so many times, but he didn't play a college season. He's only played in high school. He hasn't had to deal with the rigors of high-level basketball. So I don't know if his legs are conditioned to be playing at this level this often for this extended period of time. Now, to guys that have been in the NBA, a month and a half is nothing, right? They're used to it. But for somebody that doesn't even get the step up, which is the college level, coming into things and playing right away, I would bet that maybe his legs are tired. And I feel like a lot of threes he's missed lately, he's missed short, which would explain that his legs maybe are kind of shot right now. So if Chauncey gives him a couple days off, it might be a good idea just to get his legs back under him, refresh him mentally, and that could be a good thing for him. I wouldn't be against that. I don't think it's the pinky affecting him, though, because you wouldn't think that leads to him missing short, and it's not like he's been missing crazy left or right or anything. It seems like he's missing a lot of shots short, so it could be a leg thing.
Yeah, again, we don't know what it is. It could be either. It's very convenient that in the first 11 games he shot really well, hurt his pinky, and now the last 15 he's shot poorly. So it's probably a little combination of both, I would say. And I'm with you. I hope that Shaden Sharp does get some rest, because the Blazers are going to need him, down in the second half of the season. But at this point, they need GP2 back. I think that's the answer for me, is once GP2 comes back and solidifies himself as, a backup every single game, gets his condition back up, that's when you maybe could take a day or two off for Shaden Sharp. Make sure he's healthy, make sure his mind's right, because I do think he is a very important piece to this team. Second half, like, they're going to need him off the bench to provide some games, because we saw, Tori, the first 10, 11 games, there's a couple of games that Portland doesn't win without Shaden Sharp. So I think that he is very important to this team going forward. Yeah, and I think you're going to see him play the rest of the regular season, but then unless he improves, I don't think he's going to play in the playoffs. And the previous 7th overall pick to him, Jonathan Kuminga, was handled the same way with the Golden State Warriors last year. He played in 70 regular season games, started 12 of them, but then when the playoffs rolled around, he fell out of the rotation because rotations shorten up in the playoffs. You see your star players play more minutes. Those are going to be games where you're going to see Dame and Ant and Jeremy Grant playing 42, 43, 44 minutes in regulation. And that obviously means that the bench is going to be shorter. And at that point, you might have an addition via the trade deadline or buyout market as well to add some depth. So I think that's how this season is going to go for him. Has your expectations changed for Shaden Sharp, like in the future-wise?
No, not at all, because I think the things that he needs to figure out is everything I would have said he needs to figure out heading into this season. He needs to become better handling the ball. He needs to become more consistent defensively, stronger defensively, and learn some technique stuff, and then just give a little bit better effort, but he could be gassed, as I said. But the main thing with him offensively in terms of playing off the ball is have you noticed even every time he catches the ball, he rushes whatever he's doing? He can have a wide open three. He catches the ball. He's immediately putting it on the ground. And there's times where it seems like he'll catch the ball, have an open three, put it on the ground, and think, oh, I was open. So then he'll step back and shoot a step back three. And it's like, why didn't you just shoot the first one? A lot of times he's driving right into defenders. When you watch Dame and Ant play, they play a lot out of triple threat or will play with their dribble and like shift defenders and then explode past them. With Shaedon Sharpe, he's catching the ball and he's basically just putting his head down and just immediately putting it on the floor. And there's times where I feel like he could get ran off the line, but he puts the ball on the ground so fast, defenders don't commit all the way out, and he ends up driving into them because they're not close enough for him to beat them. So I think that type of stuff is the stuff that he needs to learn, just kind of slowing down and knowing where to pick his spots and how to get by defenders, because he's struggling with that right now. And then once he does that, you'll see a new level of Shaedon Sharpe. But that wasn't something that he was really doing a whole lot to start the season, and it's been something that he's consistently struggled with. That's something I think he'll learn, because I thought Anthony Simons was the same way his rookie year. So him struggling to shoot the ball, I'm not worried. His form's fine. He's going to remain, a high-level athlete and all that stuff. So none of his struggles have changed my mind whatsoever about his long-term upside.
Yeah, I mean, like, you look at the play he had against Minnesota with the reverse and the athleticism. It's like, well, how can you put that on the bench and not play it, right? Like, I'm with you. Sometimes for me, like, it looks like he either predetermines what he's going to do, like, right away. And so that's what you're talking about, how he dribbles. Or a lot of times he also catches off balance. I feel like he's not ready to shoot the basketball. Like, he's just like, I'm not ready to shoot this jumper. I don't want to shoot. I'm going to just drive instead of just do catch and shoot three, which he was doing earlier. I think, just maybe confidence, whatever, fatigue, all that kind of stuff. I'm not worried either. I still love Shaedon Sharpe. I think he's going to be awesome in his career. Just hitting a little wall here. And, luckily for the Blazers, this is about as healthy as they've been, all season, right? You look at the injury report, Josh Hart, probable, Drew Eubanks, probable. The only other guys that are out, Nasir Little, Gary Payton II always been out, and then Greg Brown because of the G League. Like, this is as healthy as the Blazers have been. So, luckily for that, they haven't needed Shaedon Sharpe in his offense lately. And speaking of the offense, Tori, the last 2 weeks, Portland Trailblazers, per Cleaning the Glass, which is run and created by my old boss that I worked for with the Blazers, Ben Falk. Shout out to him. He's a very brilliant, smart guy. He created Cleaning the Glass. Blazers #1 in offense the last 2 weeks. First off, I just want to put out my take here. Like, yes, it's great. It's great that the Blazers have been a really good offense and it's really good. I do still want to see the defense improve. Like, I don't want it to be just Blazers are outscoring everybody, but it's nice to see Dame back healthy, Dame looking like the old Dame, healthy 100%, and him and Ant playing well off each other once again. I'm excited about this Blazer offense, man. I think it could be really good going forward and maybe towards the top of the Western Conference.
Yeah, you got 3 guys that can create off the dribble, shoot threes, hit shots out of the mid-range. That's really hard to guard, especially when they play off of each other. If it was an offense where you saw Dame just taking turns isoing with Ant and Jeremy Grant, and they're just going one-on-one, the offense wouldn't be as good. But when you got 3 players, Jeremy Grant, Ant, and Dame, all playing off each other, you're going to have some insane offensive performances as a team, and we saw that in the previous game against Minnesota, 133 on the board. Dame gets 11 threes. A lot of those were catch and shoot. And then, Dame gets slowed up a little bit in the second half. Jeremy Grant catches fire. The ball was moving. They were playing well off of each other. The offense was flowing. So I really like this offense because I don't know if there's another team in the West that has 3 guys that can create off the dribble and knock down threes like the Blazers do, and that's today's NBA. And then beyond that, Nurkic has been finishing better lately, sets great screens. I think he fits in with the flow because he doesn't hold the ball at the top of the arc and kind of sit there unless it's him looking for cutters or waiting for some sort of off-ball action. I actually think he fits really well in an offense that kind of flows just with his passing and his screen setting, and then Josh Hart obviously facilitating, cutting on top of that. I think this starting lineup is phenomenal offensively. It's what I expected. Dame's looking like himself. Ant has had his hot stretch after struggling to start the year. Jeremy Grant's played like an all-star all season long. This offense is fun to watch, man.
Yeah, no doubt. I want to get your take. You brought up something, and we hadn't talked since the Nuggets game, the Jamal Murray step back game. Dame goes off in that game, Tori, but I was a little discouraged by it. I felt like Dame went a little too much hero ball, and it resorted back to, ISO, just pick and roll every single time. Did you get that sense for that game, or is that just me just going crazy?
I didn't get that sense. Like, if Dame has it going, you let him go, If he has an inefficient night, if he's 10 for 28 and gets 30 points that way, then, yeah, that's not good at all. But if he's, running a lot of pick and roll, playing in isolation, and he's scoring efficiently, then that's good. Like, in the end, you just want to score as many points in as few of possessions as possible. And if he's scoring efficiently, it forces the defense to adjust to that, right? And then when they adjust, then you start kicking out, hitting guys, Ant, Jeremy Grant. They can attack closeouts, or then some of the flow will come. But first, you got to stop the best player on the opposing team, plain and simple. The Blazers put up 120 points in that game. I thought the offense was fine. I wouldn't be too worried with that. And Dame had 12 assists. So, everything kind of started and ended with him, whether it was a shot or a pass. But Denver couldn't guard him at all. So at that point, force him to guard him. And then this team has enough threats that if a defense allocates too much attention or defensive resources like good defensive players towards Dame, it opens up things for other guys.
Yeah, I had after we recorded last week, we were talking just after the pod just about random things. I had brought up a little concern that I had of, are you worried about Dame, health wise? Because I was a little bit. He's getting older. He's already been out 2 separate times this year. But it was that Denver game. I think I texted you, Tori. I was just like, I think Dame's fine. So it was good to see like Dame looks fine. It looks good. Like I'm not complaining about that game because he played really well. It just I thought that was an interesting take that I just kind of thought about. I do want to talk about also Josh Hart with the new offense. He shot 6 threes in the last 2 games. Is he going to start shooting threes more?
He seems more confident. He went 3-3, 3 for 3 2 games ago, and then 2 for 3 last night. Yeah, love to see it. Because he's still playing his ass off, man. That dude played hard last night against Minnesota. That dude flying all over the place, hustle rebounds, tracking down loose balls, giving it his all defensively, and supposedly he's not 100%. He's still dealing with an ankle issue. He's rolled his ankle a couple of times this season. So I love all that stuff, but if he's knocking down threes too, I mean, Nurkic has been knocking down threes this year. It's slightly regressed, but, I believe it, and defenders are getting out on him, too. And then if Josh Hart's hitting threes like that, like he has the past couple of games, it just makes things even easier for the big three to attack. It gives them more space. So that's what I expected from Josh Hart, just to make timely threes and shoot them confidently. I was turned off by his lack of confidence when he'd catch the ball on the perimeter and have some open shots and pass them up. But I think, Steven, for Josh Hart, it's just finding that fine line between playing a role as like the 4th, 5th option in the starting lineup offensively while still being aggressive enough to keep the defense's attention, to space the floor, or maybe cash in when defenders leave him. So it's hard to find that fine line between being a facilitator, he's facilitated well this year, and being a scorer, especially when you do get some good opportunities, but you also have a ton of talent around you. I think that's kind of what he's trying to figure out right now. If he can find that line between being aggressive enough while also still playing his role and being a facilitator as well and playing off the ball, then this team is going to be it's going to reach another level of dangerous.
Yeah, like I feel like he's still getting used to playing with the guys on this team because, I mean, look at the starting lineup, Tori. Like, he's going to be their 5th option in the starting lineup. Like, Nurk is a better option than Josh Hart, and I think he's still trying to figure out, like, what exactly his role is with this team. He's still only averaging 2 threes a game, but the last 5 games, he's had 4 of them where he shot 3 3-pointers. So I think, I think you're right. Like, it's a step in the right direction. I think it is important going down the season. Like, in the playoffs, you're going to need Josh Hart to shoot confident 3-pointers just to open it up a little bit more. I like the way he's been playing pretty much all season long. He's had some stretches here where It's been a little weird, but for the most part, like I can't be mad of how Josh Hart's been playing. I just noticed, shooting some threes, looked confident, very happy about it. What so I talked about the offense being really good. What has stuck out the most, maybe like the last couple weeks with the Trailblazers offensively to you, and why they're really being a lot more efficient and just better in general the last couple weeks?
I mean, Dame being back the last 4 games has helped a ton. That dude has been on a tear the past 4 games, like 34 a game on insane efficiency, over 50% from 3, and he's making like 6-7 a game or something like that. So that obviously is going to result in really good offense. I think before that, you had Anthony Simons playing great basketball and Jeremy Grant. Those guys just kind of carrying the team without Dame. The problem is in some games it wasn't enough without Dame because the defense wasn't really there. But offensively, it's just the talent, man. Like, even without Dame, you have 2 guys that can carry you. So if you have a 3rd or 4th guy step up, you can still have good offensive games. And then obviously with Dame, I mean, you got a superstar scorer and then 2 efficient. I already raved about them to start this show. I think the talent offensively on this team is phenomenal, that even without Dame, you can still be good offensively. So some of that sample with those 2 weeks are without Dame. It wasn't like this team was doing anything too special. They're moving the ball better than they did last year, the past couple of years. And that helps, especially without Dame. But I think in the end, it just comes down to the talent and the shot making you have at the top of this lineup.
Yeah, I mean, they were like middle of the pack, basically. Now Dame's come back, and they've just been awesome. Like you said, I thought they moved the ball really well in the second game against Minnesota. I fully expected Minnesota to come out in that game and compete and probably win that game. It's tough in the NBA since they started doing those back-to-backs with COVID, like to win both games. I thought Minnesota would come out better, but Portland really put it on them. And you saw Dame hit all those threes, but Justice Winslow, your boy, came out 10 assists. I thought he played pretty well for the first time in a while. Anthony Simons did a good job. Didn't shoot the ball great, but I thought he still played a solid game. 30. How many assists they had? 32 assists against Minnesota that last game. I thought they were really good offensively, moving the ball in that second game against Minnesota. I think you're right though. Like, the main thing for me on why this team is playing better offensively is Dame, right? It's got to be Dame, and he provides such a different just obstacle for teams when they guard him because he can get to the free throw line. And for all that Anthony Simons does well and he shoots the ball really well, he's still not great, not as good as Dame, obviously, getting to the free throw line. It's just a different threat that opens up everything else. And I think with Dame, when Dame's out there, like, Jeremy Grant can really thrive in that role that he has been playing this year. Like, he has been awesome. Yusuf Nurkic as well. Like, Nurk and Dame have a good rapport together. And it was nice to see that Nurk played well against Rudy Gobert. Like, he always gets up for those type of games. Internationally, they have that little rivalry. So, I think the Blazers have just been playing really well as of late to end that homestand. It's too bad they lost that game to Denver in what it was a much it wasn't much needed to win, but a very winnable game against the Denver Nuggets. In that game, they kind of blew Dame's performance, but overall, I think Portland's been playing really well, moving the ball around a lot, and Troy, I mean, I have nothing like negative to say about them right now. Like, I'm really positive right now about the Portland Trailblazers heading into this road trip.
3 starters are having the most efficient years of their careers. Can you guess who they are? Because the other 2 guys are kind of close.
I mean, I would go Jeremy Grant, Anthony Simons.
Okay. And Dame. You got 2 of the 3.
Hey.
You got 2 of the 3. It's not Anthony Simons, it's Yusuf Nurkic, believe it or not. Nurkic is currently having the most efficient year of his career, which is kind of hilarious. The 3-point shooting helps. But also his 2-point percentage, Steven, it's up to 55%. His career high, 56% last year. Next closest year was 52.5%. So even during the Nurk fever days, when everybody loved themselves some Yusuf Nurkic, he wasn't shooting as high of a clip from 2. Now, he was shooting more mid-range shots. That probably contributed to it. But he has been finishing better lately, I think. And I think that's helped out this team the past couple of weeks, him being a little bit more efficient. And I don't know if you have any thoughts on that, but he's been 64 true shooting percentage in the 5 games in December for Nurk.
Yeah, no, I mean, Nurk's been playing really well. I kind of was hating on Nurk earlier this year. I felt like it was deserved, but he's been playing really well lately, and he's been stepping up against good competition. Like, every time they've played, Denver, he plays solid on Jokic. He played solid on Gobert. I know Gobert had a big game, but Nurk gets put in such bad positions defensively. Like, he has to help everybody else out and just leaves Rudy Gobert out for dunks. Like, it's understandable. I got no problems with the way Yusuf Nurkic is playing right now. He's been really good, and I think he's been making smart decisions with the ball. Like, he still has some of those little flip shots that he does, but that's just kind of what he does. That's Yusuf Nurkic. But like you said, he's shooting a lot better this season, 52%. A lot better lately too. He had the 9-10 game against Denver and Nikola Jokic. Indiana, he played pretty well against them as well. Like, Nurk, he's not back to what he was before the leg injury, but he's playing really well, and definitely deserving of the contract he got. I know I've been a little critical of that as well. So, the Blazers would be in a lot of trouble without Nurk. So he's been playing really well. You got to hope he stays healthy, because, he hasn't had, the missed time quite yet this season, 24 games, knock on wood for that one. But I like the way Nurk's played. Like, again, I'm with you. Like, I think Portland has been really good this year offensively. And, with Dame back, like, this team is really good. Do you think, let's go through the Western Conference here, Tori. Where do you throw Portland in there offensively? Not defensively, not overall, offensively. Are they, let's just go through the Western Conference here. Okay, I'm going to throw out Houston, San Antonio, Oklahoma City, the Lakers, Minnesota. All right, those are out. We'll go from the bottom up here. Is the Blazer offense better than the 10 seed Warriors right now?
Same tier. Golden State, when they have it clicking, it's hard to match them. But at this point, Portland has had some insane offensive runs. It's hard to put the Blazers over the defending champs. But I'd take Dame, Jeremy Grant, and Anthony Simons over whoever is the second option in Golden State, whether it's Jordan Poole or Andrew Wiggins or Klay Thompson. I would take 3 Blazers before I take whoever their number 2 or number 3 option is. Now, they run such beautiful offense that, they're still good offensively, but in terms of talent, honestly, I would take Portland's.
I don't know that I disagree with you. I think I agree with you, because I mean, Klay Thompson, I get, because who's their number 2 option? Like, Klay's been playing better lately. Do you think he's the number 2 option, or are we saying Jordan Poole or Andrew Wiggins? Like, yeah, like Simons is probably more efficient than both those guys. Jeremy Grant, same thing as of right now. I think when it comes to playoffs, it might be a different story, but yeah, I mean, right now I can't argue it. I still think, if I had to vote, I would still say the Warriors are slightly better than the Blazers offensively, but yeah, same type of tier. I'm with you.
Yeah, well, let me just say this about the Warriors. We're still figuring out what they are this year. They're coming off that championship, obviously look good, but right after they won the championship, I thought that team wasn't that good in terms of, I thought that was the worst team they had that won a championship in all 4 of their rings, or however many rings Steph Curry has. Steph Curry is still phenomenal, but Klay isn't what he used to be. And they don't have the same bench depth pieces that they used to have either. Draymond Green's offensive game has kind of fallen off a cliff. Still a phenomenal passer, very smart player, but 3-point shooting and everything else has kind of disappeared for him. You got Jordan Poole and Andrew Wiggins now, but still, I was not super impressed with the Golden State Warriors last year. And now at this point, I think we're trying to figure out, is this team seriously a 500 team, or was it just a championship hangover the first 28 games? Because they're sitting here at 14-14, but also they're 4.5 games back out of first. So a month from now, they could be in first. I don't know. I think we're still figuring out what exactly they are in 2022 to 2023.
Yeah, I still cannot believe that the Celtics did not win the NBA championship. Like, I cannot believe, like, the Celtics are a better team than the Golden State Warriors, but Jason Tatum struggled and the Warriors took advantage. Like, I still can't believe that the Warriors beat them in the playoffs. You're right. Like, we're still figuring out Golden State. They got a lot of question marks. But like you said, I'm still not ready to put them, the Blazers, above the Warriors. But I mean, give me another month or two, and you might be able to talk me into it. Okay, Dallas Mavericks. They are in the 9 seed right now. Luka Doncic is awesome, but what about the rest of that team?
You love yourself some Luka. I'm Uno reverse card. Okay, you love yourself some Luka. Are you putting Dallas or Portland on top?
Offensively, I'm going to put Dallas.
You're gonna make me fall out of my chair.
Okay, I'm gonna say it this way though. Luka's so good that I would take Dallas's offense, but the way Portland runs their offense when they have the ball moving, I love to watch that way more than just watch Luka Doncic.
They got like 1.5 guys that can dribble the ball.
And it doesn't matter. They are still 7th in the NBA in offensive rating. Like, they are awesome because of Luka Doncic. If they ever have anybody else. I can't go against my boy Luka. But you're right. The Blazers are better offensive.
Because when Luka's off the floor, man, that team is rough. If you have the right defensive piece to maybe, Luka goes off against anyone, but if you can figure out how to slow him down at all, that team is struggling. I'm pretty sure they've had a super easy schedule this year. They're sitting here at 500. Part of that is that they're not getting it done defensively, but oh man, like in a playoff series, Phoenix got this Dallas team overrated. They switched too much in the playoffs last year. In the playoffs, you literally just trap Luka, rotate correctly out of it, then deny him the ball as best as possible. That's how you beat this team. And in the playoffs, it's easier to do that because you can be more physical with him. Like, I do not buy this Dallas offense as something that can work in the playoffs. I know it worked last year, but I thought that was more so teams that they were playing not doing the right things. Like, it just, I was baffled at what Phoenix did against them in the playoffs last year. And then they play the Golden State Warriors. I forget how many games that took, but Golden State made it look easy dealing with them. So, yeah, I don't buy Dallas as his offense. Luka's great, but I don't like anything outside of that.
Yeah, my Luka love is showing a little bit here. I'm fully willing to admit that. Like, I just love Luka, man. I think he's just awesome. If it wasn't for Giannis, he'd be the best player in the league. In the playoffs, you're right. Like, it's, I think the way you say it, so it would be so easy to do that to Luka, but he makes it so much harder. Like, he's the best player on the court, and you saw that in the Sun series. Like, yeah, they switched a lot, but he also took advantage of every single opportunity. So, you're right. Portland has a better offense than Dallas, but I just want to shout out Luka. That's my guy. Okay, I'll put Portland above Dallas for sure. Okay, Utah Jazz. I think that's we throw them out. We can throw the Kings in the dumpster probably as well. The LA Clippers, now they're a tough one because they're not healthy ever. Like, are they ever fully healthy? So how good, it's tough to judge them when they're just not healthy. But I think right now I would still put the Blazers above them just because we haven't seen it.
Yeah, well, I'd take Dame over Paul George or Kawhi offensively. Kawhi's great because he's a two-way player. Paul George is a two-way player, right? That's part of the allure with those guys. But Dame is in another tier than both those guys offensively. And then, honestly, man, just looking at what Paul George has done this season, you can make a case for Anthony Simons having a better offensive year than him. Paul George averaging 23.8 points per game, 4.6 assists on 45% from the field and 38% from three. Basically identical stats to Anthony Simons, efficiency-wise and in terms of points per game, assists per game. And then Jeremy Grant is better than anyone else that got as their third option. Reggie Jackson, I don't know. Like, it just in terms of overall talent, I'm taking Portland for sure. Now, the case you could make for the Clippers is their bench is a lot more offensively talented than Portland's bench. That's kind of where Portland falls short. So, I think you can make a case for either team there.
Yeah, I mean, Clippers 16-13 on the year, and they have one of the worst offenses in the league right now, like 28th in offensive rating. So they've been really bad all season long. But it'll be interesting to see how this team, if they ever get healthy, right? I mean, that's obviously the big key with them is can they get fully healthy? How they look in the playoffs, because they are deep. They are deep, but when it comes to playoffs, you don't necessarily need a whole bunch of depth. Like, you just need kind of those dudes that get buckets. And I think you're right. Portland might have more dudes that can get buckets at a more efficient rate than the LA Clippers. So yeah, give me the Blazers over the Clippers. Phoenix Suns. They are the 4 seed right now, right above the Blazers. How about their offense compared to the Blazers?
The problem with Phoenix is they only have one guy they can consistently rely on to create shots. Chris Paul is not, his former self. Obviously, he's up there in age, and he can still have a good night here or there, man, but you can't consistently rely on him to be a threat as a scorer. You got Campaign off the bench. Half of the games he plays, he's great. Half of the games he plays, he's terrible. Like, he is so hit or miss. You can't consistently rely on him.
I was just going to say, don't you think they rely a little too much on Campaign right now?
Yeah, and that's been my biggest problem with Phoenix, and he's having a better year this year than he had last year, but, he had one great season for them, and all of a sudden, oh yeah, he's a six-man caliber player, right? I have never fully bought the hype on Campaign, and he's, people say he's playing better this year, 51 true shooting percentage. He shoots 43% from 2, he doesn't really get to the line at all, 37.5% from 3, like, he's overrated.
He's fine.
He's not somebody you consistently rely on to, create shots, because he's too inconsistent and not good enough on average. So, the problem is with Phoenix is Devin Booker, outside of him, who can you rely on to create shots? And you see the way they look without Devin Booker? They're on a massive losing streak right now, have lost 5 in a row. Portland at least was able to have some competitive offensive outings without Dame. Of course, they had some struggles as well, but that was mostly due to the defensive end. Without Devin Booker, Phoenix is not good offensively. Without Dame, Portland can still have good offensive nights because you got Ant and you got Jeremy Grant, and you can rely on those guys much more than anyone else on Phoenix. Phoenix is a good team because they play defense. If Portland could play some freaking defense, they might be the best team in the West. Kind of sucks to say, but yeah, I'm taking Portland's offense over Phoenix's.
Yeah, I agree with you. Phoenix is higher rated than Portland right now in offensive rating, but I agree with you. I think Portland has a better offense than Phoenix, and it's for all the reasons you just said. Like, if you take Chris Paul out of that lineup, it's Devin Booker, and that's it. And right now, like, Chris Paul at his age, he's gonna get hurt again. He always gets hurt. He always gets hurt in the playoffs. 37 years old. Like, can we really count on Chris Paul having another great season going all the way to the playoffs? I don't think so. He struggled at the end of last year. His shot has not been going down this year. I think he's not washed yet. He's going to have some great games, but you're right. Like, that Suns team has some problems definitely as well. I think Portland has some problems as well, but I think Phoenix has some problems, glaring problems on the offensive side. So I would put Portland above them too. So right now I would have Portland slightly behind Golden State. That's it. All right, number 3 in the West is the Denver Nuggets.
I'll let you answer this. Yeah, go ahead.
I'm gonna go first with this. I think right now Portland has a slightly better offense than Denver, and it's probably surprising to you. You're probably surprised with that answer, but I just think right now, without Michael Porter Jr., Jamal Murray's still getting his steps back. He's looked a little bit better lately. Obviously, hit that step back against Portland. They got Jokic. He's great. Bruce Brown's been a good addition. I need to see Denver fully healthy before I put them as a better offense than the Portland Trail Blazers. And I think it's mostly with Michael Porter Jr. Like, he's the definite X factor for them. They need him to be not even like what they expect him to be, which is odd. Like, he could be really awesome. Like, they just need him to be a dude that can score some buckets and get some, pressure off of Nikola Jokic. So Denver, number 2 offense rating in the league. I actually would put Portland above Denver in the offensive category.
Michael Porter Jr. is injured enough to the point where I don't really count him. He's without a timetable for a return as of December 2nd. He has chronic back problems. He's constantly injured. He played 9 games last year. He missed his rookie year due to back injuries. He's played 16 games this year. Now he's like, there's certain guys where it's like they are injured so much that you almost don't even consider them when having these conversations. And without him, I don't have Denver above Portland either.
Would you say that he is a real difference maker though?
He is a difference maker because he makes shots. Because 43% from 3 is on 7 attempts per game as a forward is legitimate. I don't think he makes them as much of a better team as people think, though, because that dude is terrible defensively, and that's Denver's problem. Without him in the lineup, I think they are a better defensive team, and you can find similar caliber shooting, not to that level, but, like a Contavious Caldwell-Pope or something is going to give you a lot more on the defensive end, and then offensively this year he's shooting 46% from 3 on 4.5 attempts per game in 31 minutes, right? That's an even higher percentage than Michael Porter Jr. So I think Michael Porter Jr. is overrated, to be quite honest with you. Even when he does play, his defensive issues are just, I can't get past them. Offensively, he's a shooter, and yeah, he can put the ball on the floor a little bit, but he's not somebody that's going to do a ton off the dribble. Yeah, I don't like Michael Porter Jr. for this team, actually. I think maybe there's another team out there that he would make more sense on.
Let me ask you this. Who's a better creator of their own shot, Michael Porter Jr. or Jeremy Grant?
Oh, Jeremy Grant, easily. Michael Porter Jr. doesn't create he'll take a dribble and shoot a mid-range over someone, right? And he's so tall, like, do you count that as creating your own shot?
I mean, kind of, yeah. He's literally creating his own shot. Like, he catch it on the wing, face up with somebody, and then shoot over. Like, I would say that's exactly.
But like, if you put Kevin Durant on him or somebody with true length, Giannis or somebody, like, I would have much more confidence in Jeremy Grant being able to generate a shot than a Michael Porter Jr. Jeremy Grant just has a better dribble drive game, is where the difference is. Because both of those guys can shoot mid-range, but Jeremy Grant's a better ball handler and has a better dribble drive game, gets to the free throw line a ton more due to his off-the-dribble game. Michael Porter Jr., 29 minutes per game this year, averaging 1.9 free throws per game. Jeremy Grant, how many free throws per game is he averaging? Like 7? I'll look it up right now. Jeremy Grant in 36 minutes per game, so he's playing a little bit more, but he's averaging 6.5 free throws attempts per game, and a lot of that is him breaking down a guy off the dribble and just attacking the rim and drawing fouls. So yeah, easily to me. Jeremy Grant's been a better three-point shooter this year than Michael Porter Jr. Better off the dribble. Like, yeah, I would say easily, yeah.
I can't disagree with you. I mean, I really can't. But I would say this. I think Jeremy Grant obviously better getting to the rim. If I had to do, like, because I do think that just jab stepping, one dribble, pull up jumper over somebody is creating your own shot. Like, I think Michael Porter is really good at that and better at Jeremy Grant than like a pull up mid range jumper creating the mid range. I think he's better than Jeremy Grant there, but I think Jeremy Grant is better at getting the rim, and that is a big part of creating your own shot. And Jeremy Grant also can make a pass if he has to, right? Like, he's not I don't think Michael Porter Jr., like, I would never count on him to make the smart pass. I think Jeremy Grant, if he has to, he can make a smart, equipped pass to somebody else. So, yeah, I don't disagree with you. I just thought it was an interesting question. All right, so let's see, where are we at in the standings? The Grizzlies, they are tied for first with the Pelicans. The Grizzlies' offense compared to the Blazers' offense, go for it.
That's really tough, actually. Because the Grizzlies play really well with and without Ja Morant. Desmond Bane's been phenomenal this year. He's hurt right now, but he was averaging like 24 points per game. It's going to be interesting to see if he can maintain that. I think the problem is with Memphis is you have two inefficient players in that starting lineup. The problem is with Portland is you have a couple inefficient players right now off the bench. But Jaren Jackson Jr., if he's making shots and he's shooting 51% from the field, 36% from 3 this year, who knows if that, stays at that clip, because last year he was 41% from the field, 32% from 3, like super inefficient. He's just been phenomenal this year in the 11 games he's played, but that's a small sample. If Jaren Jackson Jr. is making shots like this, I'd probably take Memphis just to not be biased, but I think it's a toss-up. But then the other guys, Dylan Brooks, and his offensive game, I think, gets a little bit overrated because he can get hot, but he's never been an efficient player. 40% from the field, 35% from 3. Last year he was 43% from the field, 31% from 3. So, but he hangs his hat on the defensive end. That's why Memphis is a good team, because they play both sides of the ball. But offensively, obviously Jaw's phenomenal. Bane's phenomenal. Outside of that, I would probably take Portland's guys. So, Steven, I'm going to go Portland there.
It's wild that Dylan Brooks averages 16 shots a game. That's all I got to say about that. 16 for Dylan Brooks. Like, that is insane. You took my take. Like, isn't it just if Jaren Jackson Jr. makes shots, like, Memphis is better? I think it almost comes down to this. Like, if Jeremy Grant continues to hit shots at the pace he's hitting shots at, and then Jaren Jackson falls off, I'd go Portland. If Jaren Jackson continues to hit shots at the pace he's at and Jeremy Grant falls off a little bit, I'd go Memphis. Like, I really think it is that simple where you have that stretch forward that can hit those shots, and it opens it up for Ja. It opens it up for Dame when Jeremy Grant, when Jaren Jackson hit those shots. Like, it is so important that those guys make those shots because those guys are so good at getting into the paint. And then with Dame, of course, he can hit the 30-footer where Ja's still working on that. He'll never get to that point like Dame is, but I mean, I think it's as simple as, is Jaren Jackson making shots? Is Jeremy Grant making shots? So I don't know that I can put the Portland above Memphis, but I can't put Memphis above Portland. So I would literally have them just same tier.
Well, would you take Ja and Bane or Dame and Ant offensively for a backcourt?
Ooh, that is a good question. I would probably take... Let me think about that. I probably would take Ja and Bane. And the reason why is I think Bane is a little bit better at getting to the line than Anthony Simons. I think Anthony can pass a little bit better than Desmond Bane, but shooting-wise, I would say they're about the same, like catch and shoot-wise. I don't know if those numbers actually make out the same, but I think catch and shoot-wise, they'd be about the same. Simons probably a little bit better creating off the pick and roll, but Bane's pretty good. I don't know. I think I'd probably take John Bane.
Bane and Ant, I think, are kind of a toss-up, but Ant is more deadly off the dribble. And we know Ant can shoot the three ball. He hasn't been above 40% like he was past couple of years, but close to it. And he shoots insane volume. So I think, at worst, it's a toss-up. If anything, Ant might be a little bit better than Bane. But Dame is better than Ja Morant, still. Statistically, I can back it up. Dame's averaging over 28 points per game right now. Ja is a shade under 28. Dame's true shooting percentage right now is 63%. Ja's is 55%. Ja is not the same level of three-point shooter that Dame is. Playmaking, like passing-wise, I think they're about the same, but I think Dame is better playing next to other stars. I think Dame can play within the flow of an offense a lot easier than Ja Morant can. Ja Morant can be lethal, like backdoor cut and that sort of thing, but just in an offense that has some flow to it, Dame playing off ball with the gravity he has, I think makes things easier for a guy like an Anthony Simons and a Jeremy Grant than a Ja Morant would. So, in my opinion, Dame's better than Ja Morant still. I'm going Portland's backcourt still.
Yeah, I mean, I think, just thinking about it a little more, I think I like Bane a little bit more than Ant. I like Dame a little bit more than Ja, probably offensively. It is really even.
It's a toss-up.
It's a really good question, like, because they are very similar, but they're also very different at the same time. Like, I think Bane's more better than Ant than Dame is better than Ja. So, I guess I would take, on average, I would take the Grizzlies.
I don't know. Sense? Yeah, I mean, I don't trust Bane to keep scoring 24 points per game. I trust Ant too.
But why not? Why wouldn't you trust Bane?
Because Ant's a better ball handler and a better shot creator.
But Bane's a better shooter.
Yeah.
Like a better pure shooter than Ant.
Last 2 years, Bane's been, 43% from three? Last 2 years, Ant's been 42 and 40% from three. But Ant, I think, shoots threes on a higher volume. I wouldn't say that Bane's necessarily a better three-point shooter than Ant, because Ant shoots them on higher volume, and he'll shoot them off the dribble, and that works well in the pick and roll, right? Like, Desmond Bane, is he going to run a ton of pick and roll? He's averaging almost 5 assists per game this year, but I don't know. I trust Ant's guard skills more. I don't think the shooting is that much different, and Ant is better attacking the rim.
So I think Bane's pretty solid at attacking the rim. You don't think so?
He's solid, but Ant's better.
He's big and strong. Like, he's big and strong, and
but he doesn't. I mean, he shoots 5 free throw attempts a game. Ant shoots 4. He shoots like 48% from 2. I think Ant's shooting 51 or 50 right now. But I trust Ant attacking more.
I mean, he's obviously not the athlete that Ant is. Like, Ant is a much better athlete than Desmond Bane. I don't know. I like Bane. I like his strength that he has. He shot 49% in the playoffs last year from 3. I think Bane's just a little better shooter than Ant. And I think he can get to the line just as much, if not more, than Ant. And I think Ant's a little better playmaker. So yeah, I mean it's a real toss up. You can't really go wrong either way. But
they're so similar statistically, but also they're
really
so
are.
different in terms of how they play.
They are,
but they're also both lethal shooters. It's an interesting comparison to compare those two guys. If you're watching us on YouTube, leave a comment down in the comment section below and let me know why Ant or Bane is better than the other. I want to hear your takes on this.
It is fascinating because they're both really good shooters, but like Ant is like skinny and not necessarily huge. Bane's more like a big, bulky strength guy, but he's an awesome shooter, not a great athlete, but the average the same amount of point. Like it is really fascinating, those two guys. So yeah, leave a comment there. That's great. All right, the last team. So we both put Portland above Memphis, or I had them tied. You had Portland above.
I'll put Portland above Memphis, yeah.
All right, so right now we got the Blazers at 1 or 2, basically in the Western Conference. Going down to the last team, the Pelicans, who are in have the tiebreaker over the Grizzlies as the #1 seed in the Western Conference. Tori, the New Orleans Pelicans or the Portland Trailblazers offensively, give it to me.
I'm known as a Pelicans hater. I mean, Zion's been phenomenal. CJ, obviously, we know what he can do. But Ant, I would say, is better than him at this point. And then Brandon Ingram, Jeremy Grant, I think can kind of cancel each other out. I don't know. Would you take Zion over Dame offensively at this point?
Dude, it's tough, man. Zion, for not being able to shoot, like, jump shots, like, it is amazing how efficient that guy is. Right? Like, wouldn't you say so? Like, he is so good around the hoop. 25 a night. Dame's probably better than Zion at this point offensively, but it may change by the end of the year.
Yeah, I mean, Zion being 22 can't rule anything out, but I think Dame just being able to do more on the perimeter helps open things up for other players.
Who's tougher to guard, Zion or Dame?
I don't know, man.
Like, they're completely different, but like...
Because, like, it depends. It depends. If you're a skinny twig that's quick, probably Zion. If you're some big, bulky guy, 6'10", with a lot of strength, it's probably Dame. It's hard to say, considering they're completely different types of players. So, cop-out answer.
Let's say you're Mikal Bridges.
Mikal Bridges.
Maybe the best on-ball defender in the NBA. Who do you think he has more trouble guarding, Damian Lillard or Zion?
Oh man, probably Dame, because I think he can still use his length to bother Zion on the interior, and he's smart enough to know how to kind of bother him. Whereas like Dame's gone off against him, because that's the thing is Dame scores, but he also is averaging almost 8 assists per game, and a lot of that is coming from guys having to help, and then he kicks out and makes a pass, whereas Zion's, 4 assists a game, 25 points per game, just kind of an interior player still at this point. So Dame's been efficient this year. Like, I still gotta go Dame ahead of Zion. I trust Dame especially, though, in a playoff series over Zion, because I don't like, can Zion against an elite defense, can he take over a game in the playoffs, like, off the dribble?
Knowing that he can't shoot the basketball. Like, that was always a thing. Like, Ben Simmons. Like, think back when Ben Simmons was on Philadelphia. Like, he never could shoot the basketball, but he was still good offensively in the regular season. As soon as it got to the playoffs, Tori, like, he sucked offensively. And he sucked so bad, like, he had to get out of Philadelphia. Like, I'm not saying that's going to happen to Zion. I think Zion is obviously more talented on the offensive end than Ben Simmons, but the fact that he can't shoot, like, you can load up the box and just load up your defense on Zion in the playoffs. It's going to make it much more difficult, and the refs are going to let a lot more physicality go. Like, it'll be really interesting to see how Zion performs in the playoffs. Like, I am excited to see that. That's one of the more intriguing things, I think, this year. But you're right. I would take Dame offensively right now. Just the threat of him pulling from 30 feet every single time. He still has... he's proven the last couple of games the injuries aren't bothering him. He has the explosiveness to get to the free throw line still. I think I would take Dame over Zion at this point. So if you look at the top 3 guys, Dame, Ant, Jeremy Grant versus Zion, CJ, Brandon Ingram, I mean, you probably got to give the nod to the Blazers in that one.
Yeah. Is there any big 3 offensively in the West that you would put ahead of Portland's? is my question. Because we've been going somewhere with this, Steven.
I think the only team you could argue is Ja, Bane, and Jaren Jackson. If Jaren Jackson's hitting shots.
Yeah, but I trust Jeremy to hit shots more than him. But here's the thing.
I do too.
If we got the best big three offensively, then isn't it just about surrounding these guys with the best role players so we can play good enough defense in order to contend?
But don't you think you need more than 3 guys to really compete in the playoffs?
Yeah, which that's my point though, is you just have to surround those guys with the right guys. Like, because I remember we had this debate, I think it was a couple podcasts ago, and I truly believe that Portland has enough high-end talent in terms of Dame, Ant, Jeremy Grant, in order to contend if they have the right role players around them. And what we've seen the past 2 weeks with this offense being the best in the league, even without Dame for a little bit of a stretch there, you know, that's 2 weeks that have contributed to the Blazers being the best offense in the league. Dame's only been back for 4 games. I think that showcased that if Portland can be a good enough defensive team, and right now, outside of the big three, you still got a bunch of defensive problems. If they can just play average defense, this team can contend. Is where I'm at.
Yeah, no, I will say this. I was more against you then. I'm not fully on board with what you're saying right now, but I'm more on your side than I was before. And I'm getting there. I'm getting there slowly but surely. Like, the Western Conference, like, again, I think it's still early, right? Like, what have the Blazers played? 27 games this season? Still early. We're not even halfway through this season. There's still a lot of basketball to be played. So Jeremy Grant is having a career year. That could just fall off at any point. I don't think it's gonna, but it could still. Like, I'm not ready to say the Blazers have the top 3 guys in the Western Conference for the whole season. Up until this point, I think you're right. I would agree. Like, Portland may have the top 3 guys so far this season. I'm not ready to go all the way yet, though, just projecting out. But right now, like, I can't argue that you're wrong. Like, look at those guys' numbers. They are great. They are great. Like, you could only really say New Orleans or Memphis are close enough to compete with the top 3 guys. Like, it is truly fascinating how well those 3 are playing.
Yep. Yep. 3 guys that can take over a game, get on fire. That's the thing. Even if you're going up against maybe a better team, you can never rule out teams that have the potential to catch fire from 3. So that's a big thing with this, is even if their defense still is a bit of a sore spot, this team might have enough to simply outscore teams in the playoffs if they play the right way. The problem in the past is they haven't played the right way. It's been easy to take Dame out of games. Portland never has had an answer. I think this year Portland will have an answer for that, because not only do you have, you still have a great 2-guard, but you got a Jeremy Grant and you got a Josh Hart who can make plays if Dame outlets the ball out of a trap. And then Nurkic, of course, can finish around the rim when, he's open, and then he's knocked down threes. So I think this team is built to succeed in the playoffs offensively as well. That's kind of the bigger thing. Whereas in previous years, I wasn't quite as happy with the starting forwards especially, but then also just the way they attack things offensively in the playoffs. So I'm very high on this team offensively, man. It just comes down to the defense.
Yeah, I'm not ready to buy in fully yet. I will say this, like I said, there's still a lot of time left to be played. Just a couple weeks ago, before this stretch when the Blazers had the best offense in the league, they were, 14th in offensive rating. Like, the team wasn't looking very good. I know they weren't fully healthy, and they still have some things to work on. So I will, it's a very positive side. They had a really tough schedule going at the start of the season, and they're playing a lot easier teams right now. Portland, I mean, they look good offensively. It's just a dangerous game to say, Tori, like you said, they have an offense that could win in the playoffs. Like, even if you're average defensively, I just think that's a dangerous game to play, where you're going to rely on that offense. And we just talked about it, like, teams play so much differently in the postseason, and they load up on guys and just make it so much more difficult. I think it's a dangerous game to play. They got to improve that defense a lot. And I think a lot. Or else I don't think this team's a real contender.
Yeah. Well, where do you think are the main areas they need to improve, and where do you think maybe are the easiest areas to improve for this team defensively?
I think the obvious answer is Gary Payton II. They still don't have that guy who you can throw on a guard one-on-one and say, all right, make it tough for him, make it difficult for him. Jeremy Grant's been that guy that they've been throwing on these guards. It's just not working. I think GP2, when he comes back, that is his definite role. Like, you're going to go out and guard the best player and make it difficult for him. I think that's the number one stretch they have. The other thing is in the pick and roll, they put Nurk in a lot of bad positions, and they just need to fight through screens a little bit more, right? Like, they need to do that. I think a lot of times either the Blazers just, they get really lazy and Chauncey just has them switch, or they just don't fight through screens, and then that's where Nurk, like, you can play drop coverage. I know drop coverage is like this sacrilegious thing, like you can't do it. No, you can play it, but it's really important that the guards fight through or fight over the screens and make it difficult on whoever has the ball, being the ball handler, to make a decision. When you don't fight through the screens, it's then super easy for that ball handler to just take on the screener defender, basically 2-on-1, and make the right choice. These guys are too good in the NBA. Like, those guards have to fight over those screens. I don't know if they're going to, right? Like, I can't say that Dame's gonna all of a sudden be fighting over screens all the time. I can't say Anthony Simons is gonna be doing that. I think Gary Payton II does, and he will. And I do think that they're gonna have to make another move somewhere down the line to get some more depth of this team, especially for the defense.
Yeah, just perimeter defense, point of attack defense, getting through screens has been the biggest issue as well.
Nurk has been good.
Yeah.
Like, I've hated on him, but like, he gets put in such bad positions that like Rudy Gobert goes off and you're like, oh well, Nurk sucks. No, he doesn't. Like, watch the games. He has to guard like 3 guys every single play, and then Rudy Gobert gets a wide open dunk. Like, there's nothing he could have done. Like, it's all about the perimeter defense for the Portland Trailblazers. Like, they got to get better there.
Well, here's something that was pointed out to me too: is Drew Eubanks will automatically switch even if the guard gets through, or even if it's not something he should be switching on. Like, Drew Eubanks loves to switch pick and rolls, and we see Drew Eubanks against guards a whole lot, and he can have a big play once in a while. You know, he had that block on Anthony Edwards, and then after the game, it's like everybody remembers that block on Anthony Edwards, and they'll sit here saying Drew Eubanks is a great rim protector. But if you put Drew Eubanks like kind of in drop, or when he shows, even a lot of times he doesn't know when to recover, like he just stays on guards. Drew Eubanks' pick and roll defense is not good. Nurkic's is a lot better, and I think that translates to rim protection. Like, Nurkic does the best job he can without fouling. A lot of times, too, in my opinion, you want your big man to force misses around the rim, not necessarily block shots. Block shots are great and everything, but if you can force a miss, more often than not, you're going to get the rebound. Whereas if you're blocking shots, a lot of times you're either blocking it towards the three-point line, where offensive players are, you're blocking it out of bounds, or Eubanks had a play against Minnesota last night where he blocked a shot right back to Rudy Gobert and then he finished, right? So is that rim protection? You know what I mean? So that's kind of my thing is Nurkic is, I think, doing a really good job because he's not auto-switching. I don't know if it's Chauncey Billups who wants Drew switching onto everything, but if that's the case, then that's just a bad strategy, because when you switch a big onto a guard, you also switch a guard onto a big. And we saw too many times like Anthony Simons having to try and deal with Rudy Gobert underneath and that sort of thing, because Drew Eubanks switched. Gobert played some minutes against Eubanks, but that's my problem with the box score watchers, Steven, is then people after the game will say, Gobert had 20, that's Nurkic. And that's why you gotta watch the games, and that's what we're here to break down.
Don't you think that the Blazers switches Drew Eubanks a lot because he's not good at any other screen defense? Like, it's the best of the bad options, right? Like, I think it's almost better to have him switch than to run a drop scheme or to actually get out and like try to show on somebody. I think it's easier for him, like, just mentally to do it, and I think it's actually probably the best situation for the Blazers rather than have to put him in a spot to make a decision defensively. Like, it should be easy, right?
Yeah.
Like, it should be simple to say, hey, play better defense. Like, you gotta read this better. But that he's a backup for a reason. He's a journeyman for a reason. Like, he was almost out of the league for a reason. Like, he's not great at certain things. I think Chauncey, yeah, you could say put him in different spots, but at the same time, I don't know that you want to, because this might be the best of a bad situation.
Steven, if that's true, the Blazers need to find a new backup center. I know Drew Eubanks has been great at finishing this year and has had some like really energetic moments, and I get why a lot of people like him. He's done some things well this year, but the problem is you don't want to have to put Anthony Simons on Rudy Gobert and Drew Eubanks on Anthony Edwards in order to deal with Drew Eubanks not knowing how to play pick and roll defense. That's bad. And I'm not saying Drew Eubanks can't have good moments, but the problem is in the playoffs, teams hunt bad pick and roll defenders. And if you got a guy that you're going to switch onto everything, teams will hunt Drew Eubanks switches in the playoffs and absolutely eviscerate him. Especially if it's starting guards that he's ending up playing against. Like, if that's the case, where Chauncey feels like that's his only option, and they go into a playoff series, and Nurkic gets in foul trouble in the first 3-4 minutes, and you have to sub Drew Eubanks in against starters, and you're just going to switch him onto guards, those types of bigs get absolutely played off the floor. And it's funny because fans will talk about like that as if it happens with Nurkic, but Nurkic is a better pick-and-roll defender. He's fine. His pick-and-roll defense is fine. I would say it's even good. Like, he's a positional defender. He knows where to be. He's smarter than people realize defensively. Drew Eubanks is more athletic and agile, but he's not as smart, so he'll have huge highlight blocks, and people are wowed by that, but a lot of the nuances of playing defense as a big man, Drew Eubanks isn't at the same level as Yusuf Nurkic. So that's my worry, if that's the case, Steven, is in the playoffs, teams are going to hunt that.
I 100% agree. I think that the Blazers need to upgrade that spot. I've said that all year. I like what Drew Eubanks have done. I make jokes like, hey, wouldn't it be nice if Yusuf Nurkic was as good as Drew Eubanks? Like, obviously I'm joking. Like, Nurk is an above average pick and roll defender. I do think they need to upgrade that backup center position because, look, I don't know this for a fact. That would just be my guess on why they switched so much with Drew Eubanks, is that Chauncey just feels more comfortable putting Eubanks in that position rather than putting him in the pick and roll defense position. That's just my guess. I don't know that for sure, but I think it's pretty safe to say, because when they have Nurk out there, they run different type of defenses. When, like you said, when they have Eubanks out there, it's a lot of switching, and I think they got to figure out some type of upgrade. But yeah, it's an interesting thing with Drew Eubanks right there.
Yeah, it's interesting to compare and contrast them, and then hear other fans compare and contrast them completely differently. Man, it's kind of wild.
Like, with all the hate I just had for Drew Eubanks, I do like the fact that he dunks a lot, and he has cool dunks, and he gets the crowd psyched. I kind of say, Drew Eubanks, the way he plays defense is kind of like the fake hustle defense. Like, he has these big plays, and then it confuses fans to think that he's really good. It's like Gary Trent Jr. back when he was on Portland.
Yeah.
Like, Gary Trent would... he'd get really aggressive and like reach and foul somebody, and everyone's like, oh, he's just a dog. He's a dog. He's getting into guys. And then he would dive for a ball, and you're like, oh, look at that hustle. But it's like, watch the games. He's getting just cooked every single time he's guarding somebody. I kind of think that's Drew Eubanks.
Yeah, I agree. I was never the biggest fan of Gary Trent Jr.'s defense either, and I agree with that take, man. I always thought it was a situation where, yeah, he'd get up into guys and people would think, oh, that makes him a great defender. Look how he's up into a guy. And he'd get an impressive stopper, an impressive steal. But, I mean, guys only average 1 or 2 steals per game, 1 or 2 blocks per game. How many defensive possessions are they playing per game? 40, 50, 60? Like, you're talking about a very minute handful of possessions. What about the other 56 possessions or 46 possessions or however many possessions they play? What is happening on those possessions? That's what I care about. Like, on average, is this dude contributing to the Blazers getting stops? Highlight plays are fun defensively, but they are in the minority of defensive possessions for any player. If you had Gary Trent Jr. averaging 10 steals per game, okay, then we can have a different conversation because that's a ton. But no player has ever been able to do that. Not even John Stockton back in the day, and he got a ton of steals. So that's my whole thing defensively, is those types of plays people notice and it wows people, but it's in the minority, and there's a lot of other things that happen on different possessions that aren't as memorable, but they matter.
And I think Raptor fans are realizing that about Gary Trent Jr., not super happy with him. But with that, Troy, I think that's going to wrap it up. I think we learned today that the Trailblazers offense, awesome. Trailblazer defense still needs some work. So with that, Tori, you got anything else you want to add real quick?
No, man, just looking forward to the 6-game road trip. Predictions on the road trip. It's San Antonio, Houston, Dallas, OKC twice, and Denver on the road. I don't know if that's the right order, but that's the teams they're playing.
I feel like I'm almost too positive on this team. Like, I feel like it's a 4-2 trip, like, at worst, right? Like, 3-3, I guess, would be the worst road trip. But, like, 4-2, I think, is a realistic expectation on this road trip. Like, that's what it should be.
Mm-hmm. I agree. That should be the goal. Can't rule out, like, San Antonio's been winning games lately. Houston beat the Suns. They didn't have Booker today, but Houston's been playing better lately. And OKC's 11-15, so it might be a little bit more difficult than fans think. And then, of course, Dallas on the road. We already lost to them on the road. And then Denver in altitude in Denver is going to be tough. But I wouldn't rule out this team in any of those games. But in worst case scenario, I could see 3-3, maybe even 2-4. I'd be surprised if they went. I'd be very surprised if they went 2-4 and they were healthy. But the goal should be 4-2. I think this team could go 6-0. You know, like I don't really know what to expect, but I do expect at least 4-2 from this team out of this road trip.
I know my guy Luke is going to go off, so that's an L against Dallas. But no, I think, no, you're right, dude. Like 3-3, at the very worst, 3-3. I think 4-2 is very realistic with that. So, just want to wrap it up here for the Believe in Blazers podcast presented by Bet Online. Make sure to leave comments on YouTube, on my Twitter page at Steven_VON, with Tori at ToriJonesYT. We appreciate all that. Rate, review, subscribe, all those great things. We really appreciate you. So for my guy, Tori Jones, I'm Steven Vaughn. Thank you for listening. Have a great day, and go Blazers.